Hello and welcome, my name is Dehalev, and today I will be showing you my 6-2, 18th place Ogdoadic Mitsurugi deck. This deck combines Ogdoadic Daybreak's ability to create overwhelming board presence with Mitsurugi's resilience and consistency to overwhelm opponents, playing easily through any hand trap but draw, with lines and cards specifically intended to minimize even its impact. While I think the Cosmic Slicer board is more powerful, it is more susceptible to draw, worth going second, costs 2 extra deck slots, and ultimately ends up as a win more line with less versatility. I'll go over my list, talk through my ratios and card choices, explain any changes I would make given hindsight or a bigger budget, and explain my siding patterns. This is a 54 card list, the reason being that there are just a lot of cards I wanted to include, so rather than limiting my options and cutting cards, I decided to add more starters and up my ratios. It also helps to avoid opening too many bricky monsters like Night Sword, Kusanagi, or the big Ogdoadic names. If you enjoyed this video, then please like, subscribe, and join the Discord. We stream every weekend. Onto the deck profile. First, we play one Murakumo and one Futsu, with Murakumo being your hand rip / negate and your board wipe, and Futsu being your recursion, getting you searches in the opponent's turn, and triggering that Murakumo board wipe more often than not. These two form the basis of why Mitsurugi is so potent, giving you incredible recovery, setup, and aggressive push in attack points, as well as removal. You're able to recover all Mitsurugi cards from even banishment using Kusanagi, so I find it unnecessary to run more than one each of Murakumo and Futsu, given their slightly bricky nature without access to a ritual spell. 3. Habakiri. Its incredible once per duel effect is just begging to be used on your first turn, so running 3 maximizes your chance of seeing it and accomplishing that goal. Something I want to point out is that you can also use this card effectively under draw to out your opponent's board going second, summoning Wosu from deck, tributing Wosu, and then using Wosu's effect to add it to your hand, therefore letting you out an opponent's monster. 3. Pre-preparation of rites. This card going +1, getting you a search of any of your rituals plus mirror, makes it one of the most potent searchers you have access to, and will be a hotly contested target for your opponent's Ash. Starting your lines using pre-prep also allows you to search a second back row, that either being Prayers or Magatama, as the normal line allows you to search out Mitsurugi Great Purification. We play one Mitsurugi Mirror. The odds of drawing this alongside pre-prep are incredibly low, and this card's impact on its own isn't as high as the others, so it's not worth running more in my opinion. But this is a fantastic card, do not get it wrong, allowing you to summon from your graveyard, tributing levels equal to or higher than, allowing you to convert things even like Nef into Mitsurugi ritual monsters. Its ability to chain block Ash on your opponent's turn when reviving your Mitsurugi monsters also means they will have a much harder time cutting off your end board. 2 Aramasa and 2 Saji. Aramasa is a one-card starter, while Saji is not, but they are both very useful because of the Ogdoadic names we run, so I find that 2 is enough for both, despite how powerful they are. 1 Kusanagi. This card, upon being tributed, grabs you back a Mitsurugi card from graveyard or banishment, most often being your ritual spell to be used again, but can of course be used on the opponent's turn to recur whatever you would like, including banished ritual monsters off of effects like Crow or Bestials. Night Sword Serpent summons itself from the graveyard if sent there by card effect, meaning if tributed from deck or hand, it will revive, giving you that extra field presence. This is especially effective at setting up easy link 2s or a rank 4 if you need more ritual access through King of the Feral Imps, with its only downside being that it offers an extra draw under Meowls. For our last Mitsurugi monster, we main deck one Wosu, this being an inherent summon kaiju that tributes a reptile from your hand and any monster on your opponent's board, with the minor downside of reptile locking you for the rest of the turn. Wosu can be a huge attack point swing, planting 2,000 on your side while clearing likely a 3k or higher beater from your opponents. Desiree and Detonator both come to mind as cards Wosu is especially adept at dealing with. 3 Mitsurugi Prayers. This card's flexibility between search and swarming, all on top of the fact that it's a quick play, make it easily one of the archetype's best, if not the best. A very useful play, because this deck loses so hard to draw, is to use this in your draw phase in conjunction with your Saji, Aramasa, or Habakiri, if your hand cannot afford to be drawled during your main. This is also a very effective card at dodging targeting effects like Imperm and Veiler, and triggering the tribute effect of your rituals. Just be conscious in events that the 800 burn can matter when going into time. 3 Mitsurugi Ritual, allowing you to summon once from hand and once from deck. This card is almost always live, and so maximizing your copies means you are, again, stronger into draw, as this is one of your high priority targets, the other being Ogdoadic Daybreak. 1 Mitsurugi Magatama. This card gives us a more aggressive end board if we're able to search 2 back row pieces, assuming we either open this or Purification, begin the combo with pre-prep, or some other high value combination of cards. Prayers is powerful, allowing you to dodge, recur, and search, but I often prefer having a more aggressive option, and Magatama is especially useful versus continuous spells and traps as it's effectively a negate by popping them, and also very strong versus decks that care about board presence like Ryzeal, as at a certain point, all they want to do is put 2 4s on the board to make a detonator so that they have something to fight into your board. This is also a great way of outing floods, as almost all the common floodgates are especially backbreaking for this deck. Another important thing to note about Magatama is it can be used to play around Imperm, as it can be used to tribute the reptile being targeted, targeting the Imperm to pop it, therefore dodging. 1. Mitsurugi Great Purification. This is an Omni Negate, and on a future turn can be used to revive and dodge effects of your opponents. It's also especially effective at pushing for lethal, the same of which can be said about Prayers, as tributing your rituals during the battle phase effectively doubles their output. Onto our Ogdoadic line, we run 3 Snake Rain. This is the most effective way to set up your Ogdoadic plays, and very counterintuitively, the fact that this discards for cost means if your opponent has Ash Blossom, they are very likely to use it here. At the regional, this took so much heat. I don't know how many of these I resolved, but the fact that it was taking that aggro away from my other plays like the Saji Search or the Ritual Summon from deck meant that I was still able to capitalize on Naya's effect, which effectively does the same thing, simultaneously producing a huge threat to the opponent as well as a very predictable interrupt from them. 3. Naya, the Ogdoadic Remnant. This card is very flexible, either being a 1-card Mitsurugi starter or a 1.5 card full Mitsu Ogdo starter, given that you have a monster you can put on the board to offer as tribute to Curse, which this will be sending almost every time from deck to graveyard. 1. Nunu. While this card can be a 1.5 card starter if you have another level 4, I find that I would much rather start with the other starters like Pre-Prep, Snake Rain, Naya, or Habakiri, instead relying on this card as a powerful send off of Snake Rain. If you ran Zoha, this could be a 1.5 card starter guaranteed, as you would simply send Nunu, then send Zoha from deck, adding Zoha from graveyard to hand by discarding, but I find that Zoha is lower impact than necessary as we have a high volume of powerful starters that are much less convoluted. If you do not need access to your Nef, or would rather have access to a ritual summon, you can also use Nunu to send any Mitsurugi name, meaning you can send any ritual to then summon from graveyard using Mirror. 1. Curse. This card in graveyard allows you to tribute a monster to revive itself, and offers the opponent the chance to revive a monster from their graveyard, often a hand trap like an Ash Blossom, before targeting and reviving your Naya, which will then search out an Ogdoadic spell. Unwary opponents will often take this revive, and while in the past this has just been a detriment, we're going to explain why now you always hope they are unwitting and take that revive. We play 1 Aaron the Ogdoadic King. This card has been the MVP in this regional and the one I played before, as it offers us 3 major upsides. The first is, it hand rips if your opponent adds a card from deck to hand, which means if you were under the effects of any of the Mulch armies, this will effectively earn you 1 free summon, hand ripping a random card from them. The second being, if your opponent has a monster from their field sent to grave, including for a summon, he searches or adds from grave a Chaos Reptile, meaning under draw, this card is able to recur card advantage from your graveyard, while also capitalizing on the monster Curse gives the opponent, which, of course, we are wiping using that Murokumo board wipe. And lastly, this card can be summoned from your graveyard by tributing 2 monsters, which can trigger your rituals if you had an awkward hand. This is especially useful if you have a way to ritual summon with something like Mirror, but not a way to reach the second summon or the ritual spell itself. Lastly, as a talking point on mulches, they encourage you making half boards, which this list is very good at doing, and Aaron is a very easy card to set up, as you simply modify your usual Ogdo line, given a droll or a mulch, to end on this card instead of your go wide link board, as this will likely cost your opponent 2 cards total from their hand, pairing nicely with Murokumo, who will likely cost them 1, meaning during your opponent's turn, you will have ripped 3 cards between the 2. Lastly, we run 1 Nephilibus. This card is a monster reborn, and if a monster is sent from hand or deck to grave, can revive itself, though Reptile locks you for the rest of that turn and your opponent's. While this sounds harsh, the fact that we have such powerful main deck reptiles means that this coming back and offering a 31 defense body could be the difference between you winning and losing a duel. And there are plenty of ways to revive it using things like Abao or Water Lily, which do not reptile lock you, letting you take full advantage of its monster reborn effect. It's also very effective at pushing for lethal, as it's basically a free 2200 beater, in a deck now full of huge beaters. 1 Ogdoadic Daybreak. This lets you tribute a reptile and summon tokens equal to its level divided by 2, meaning if you tribute Curse or another level 8, you get 4 tokens, which is unprecedented field presence, and its other ability lets you return a banished reptile to deck and send any reptile from deck to grave, nicely setting up Aaron, an extender like Nunu, or simply recycling a monster you do not want in banishment, including your important one of Mitsu rituals. This is the heart of the Ogdoadic lines. Ogdoadic Water Lily is your other searchable spell, allowing you to foolish a reptile, and on resolution, if you have 5 unique reptile names, revive one. These two cards represent different ways of playing through mulch armies. Fuelos hurts Daybreak, as you wish to go wide and then summon a large number of extract monsters, while Meowls hurts Water Lily, so you simply pivot depending on which one you've been hit with. The same can be said for the deck at large. Neither engine loses very hard to Perulia, and the Ogdoadic engine certainly loses harder into both Meowls and Fuelos, but by including this card, you're able to make a much more reserved Ogdoadic line, still ending on a powerful boss monster, while denying your opponent the full breadth of resources they would gain had we only had one goal with that engine. For our non-engine, we play 3 Mulch Army Fuelos, 3 Ash Blossom. This is mostly to counter opponent Fuelos going first, but this can be very high impact versus your opponent's Duo Drive, Saji, or Ritual Summon from deck. 3 Droll and Lockbird, very good versus other Mitsurugi decks and Ryzeal, while also hitting many other decks in between. 3 Forbidden Droplet. This card is so much better than it would be because it cannot be responded to in most instances, and is another way of dodging targeting and non-targeting effects. This can also be used to block Droll, as on your turn, you have priority. So upon resolving a search, you can immediately use Droplet, sending a monster, and this will cut your opponent off from being able to use their Droll, effectively earning you one more search before Droll will be in effect. 1 Triple Tactics Talent. The ability to look at your opponent's hand and rip a card going first is why this card is limited in the first place, and the power to take any monster from your opponent is a great way of forcing them to pop their own detonator, spending the Eclipse Twins, or take the Murokumo off their board, denying them the full value from their set prayers, as many players this format are on combinations of Ryzeal and Mitsurugi. 1 Called by the Grave and 1 Crossout Designator, both here to stop hand traps, but mainly to stop Droll, as that is the one hand trap that forces you to go into a very different board than you would otherwise. And 3 Sales Ban. This is something I've been on for a little while now. You call Droll with this, as again, that's the one card that really ends your turn given a hand with a low number of starters, or by starting with a low impact searcher. For the extra deck, we play 2 King of the Feral Imps. This is necessary, as starting with Nunu requires a second coat fee, and this deck is very capable of making a second King of the Feral Imps if the first searcher is stopped. It also helps prevent Kashtira Unicorn from ripping your consistency apart. 1 Evil Swarm Nightmare. This is part of the usual end board, offering 2 Book of Moons, 1 Divine Dragon Knight Felgrand. I find that a rank 8 is a very effective capstone to your end board, and this is just the one I have on hand. 1 Gagaga Cowboy. This is obviously for time. This deck is a combo deck and can take time to play, and if you're matched up against another combo player, you're in for a long game. Cowboy is there for when you're not able to strategically scoop and to guarantee finishing off those long matches. I don't like doing it, but as long as the time rules stay as they are, I'll keep recommending cards like this. For our Abao line, we play 1 Link Spider, 1 Haggard Lizardos, who will then draw you a card, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, which can be used to spin an opponent's monster, but is mainly here to be a fiend to be used for Abao. This card is very good into Nibiru, which, by the way, is not a card this deck is afraid of, as you can simply hold it until they nib in most cases, or to force it, while also helping you set up even greater field presence, and popping cards in the opponent's turn, and come back to your standby, helping you filter your hand for the perfect finisher. 1 Reptilian Echidna. This card can be made using a reptile and any other monster, making it a very flexible link summon. Zeroes out an opponent's monster, and then can search reptiles equal the number of 0-attack monsters your opponent controls. This usually only searches 1, but it is not impossible for this to search 2 or 3 cards given that your opponent has revived things off of Curse, like an Ash Blossom, or they simply control many monsters that have been zeroed out by utilizing Lizardos' effect by banishing something like Naya. It does reptile lock you, but again, given the caliber of reptiles we have access to, that is much less a concern than it used to be. 1 Ragnarika Selene Snapper. This card lets you banish 2 monsters from grave to target and pop 2 of your opponent's spell or trap cards. This almost always forces their back row to be used, and its recursion means that you're always going to have access to that once this card is in rotation. 1 Dynamondo. This is here as mostly an anti-droll piece, as it allows you to get the full benefit of ritual summoning on your turn during the opponent, either bringing back a Futsu to then revive Murokumo, or simply a well-timed Murokumo to wipe the opponent's board and gain access to its hand rip. It can also spin something back, but admittedly, that comes up much less often. This is a critical part of your half board. 1 IP Masquerena, offering valuable destruction protection to what it summons, as well as quick access to SP Little Knight during your opponent's turn. As something you'll find is, with this list, you will very often clog up your monster zones. You simply have too much card advantage and value going around, and so being able to convert that on the spot into something like SP is crucial. Lastly, 1 Access Code Talker. Given the breadth of attributes we have in our extra deck, between Earth, Water, and Dark, Access Code is very easy to get up to 5300, clear 2 to 3 cards, and swing for the game. For our side deck, we play 3 Solemn Judgment, an incredible going first card, stopping literally anything. 3 Triple Tactics Thrust. This gets sided in going first or second, you just don't main it in this list, and your opponent will very often have a monster even when you're going first because of the aforementioned Curse, Bystials, or Nibiru, meaning you're very often going to be able to search for your talent and get that hand rip off going first. 2 Lightning Storm and 1 Duster. These are very powerful, almost always being used for their back row effect, and it's important to note that Lightning Storm says you can activate 1 per turn, meaning if it is negated by something like a Solemn Judgment, you can use your other copy. We play 3 Artifact Lancia and 3 Chaos Hunter, both obviously being for the Malice matchup. Lancia is much better as you can use it in the draw phase, while Chaos Hunter you have to wait for a summon and can be outed by Cerberus. The common wisdom I've seen is to wait to summon your Chaos Hunter until they are Cyberus locked off of something like their Wizard or Splash Mage. Overall, this deck is very resilient into hand traps and very consistent. Droll offers the largest threat, but keeping it in mind, it is pretty easy to still build a formidable board under. And other hand traps, even high impact cards like Ghost Spell, aren't enough to stop you on their own. As for card changes, if I had Meowls, I would run it over Chaos Hunter in a heartbeat, as the card simply does more to encourage your opponent to pass the turn. Similarly, Divine Dragon Knight Felgrand is a powerful negate, but is outclassed in almost every regard by Galaxy Eye's Photon Lord, who can negate monster effects in the hand, and his 3000 defense means he's much safer from cards like Lightning Storm, while also preventing damage in the battle phase, and possibly saving you matches due to time losses. I am also considering getting Perulia, while expensive, drastically harms Ryziel's ability to summon. And while I'm hesitant to give up the security sales ban offers, I think that we are secure enough going first even into Droll with this build that it's more important to have better going second tools, as the Ryziel Mitsu board can be nigh unbreakable if set up correctly, or if they go for the hand rip off Ouroboros. Now for the side deck is I don't have any shutout options for Thrust, and so Mischief of the Gnomes is something I've considered as a way to entirely ruin a Ryziel Mitsu's day, turning their monsters into 3s and 7s. Because do not forget, Mitsurugi Ritual requires exact tribute, and Ryziel doesn't have that many rank 3s to go into. For siding patterns, I almost always side the same way regardless of matchup. Going first, I side out 2 each of Fuelos and Droll, and take out 1 Droplet and Wosu, slotting in 3 Thrust and Solemn Judgment, again, Thrust often being able to capitalize fully on the opponent possessing a monster. Going second, I side out Aaron, Crossout Designator, and Called By, alongside 3 Salesman for Thrust and the Board Breaker Suite. Called By can be very powerful, and against Mitsurugi, it's almost guaranteed that you should keep it, but I find that in a lot of other matchups, stopping one hand trap is often not as impactful as trying to clear their whole board or having more gas. In summary, I think this deck is very powerful and very flexible. Its ability to push through powerful hand traps like the Mulches, Ash, and Bell, even Bystials, mean that you're able to fight through a lot of interruptions your opponent likely thinks will stop you, and their unfamiliarity with Ogdoadic will cost them match losses, as simply not knowing what Ogdoadic is capable of will be the difference between players who lose to it and players who can actually stop it. I cannot tell you how much joy I get when someone ashes the new effect to send. I also think the Mitsurugi cards are obviously just very powerful regardless of winning or losing the coin flip, and the fact that we're running Wosu, the Trap, and Magatama all in the main are testament of that flexibility. Wosu's level makes it a useful tribute in a tight situation. Magatama's ability to out both floods and problematic monsters while also dodging targeting make it a very versatile removal option, and even Purification has a discard effect, meaning you have something you're happy to throw away into Snake Rain, as that revival and tribute can very often be the difference between playing through your opponent's final interrupt. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the most fun I've ever had with Ogdoadic, and I look forward to playing it even more and hopefully achieving even higher results. I will be going to my first NAWCQ this coming July, so if you'd like to hear more about that, like, subscribe, and join the Discord. Many theories, card choices, and lines have been honed by the excellent community we've created on that platform. That's all for me though. I'll see you next time.